Aye, bro. You aye, bro?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode
15. Featuring Jeremiah Walter.
Right. Old friend of mine. I was in a band with him many years ago. He has moved on from. We did pretty heavy music back then.
He was the original. He was the original singer for Intake, correct?
Correct. And we've moved on since then. He's gone on to greener pastures for himself. He'll explain everything during our interview. We had a good time sitting down with him about a week ago. I think we got to sit down with him, but super cool talking to him. Good catching up. So yeah, we're on episode 15. This puts us in our third month, almost the end of our fourth month.
It's crazy, huh?
Yeah, and that's just fourth month of episodes. Obviously, now that we switched to a new schedule, it's going to be a little different. But
yeah, just as a reminder, we are scaling it back to 2 episodes a month or an episode every other week. Just
right.
Because once again, it makes us feel like we're giving you more quality than quantity, and it also takes a little bit of pressure off of us to come up with guests for you and make sure that what we're putting out there is watchworthy.
Right. Whilst also continuing our normal day jobs. So
yeah, right. Some of us are new day jobs.
That's right. Congratulations on that. I'm
Thanks,
glad
buddy.
that's going well.
Yeah, it's going.
Also Jeremiah was he was one of the features in the current. I'm not sure if it'll still be the current when this comes out. Riff Rag magazine.
Yeah.
Who's a proud sponsor of us.
Covering
Riff Rag magazine.
Covering local music in Southern Colorado and beyond.
That's right. If you haven't seen it, go to their Facebook. I'll put a link in the description for their Facebook. You can find all the information there. The best thing to do is to subscribe to them. It's $1 a month, costs you $12 a year. Can't beat that. You can just email Anthony Welch over at the riffrag@gmail.com. I'll throw that on the screen right now. Also be a link in the description. Or if you need to do any
advertising.
Advertising. You can advertise with Riff Rag. It's from $25 to $100 a month. Again, get in touch with Anthony Welch. He'll give you all the information you need for that.
And Mississippi Dirtweed's getting better, huh, bro?
Shit, if I had some, it would be. Let's see. Anything cool in the news happened in the last couple of weeks that
we lost a lot of people in the last couple of weeks, man.
One of the
guys, he was the sound engineer for Amon Amarth, my friend Brian Post. He passed away last week. And I'm not sure if it's COVID or not, but he was a healthy motherfucker.
Yeah.
Ex-military. Been doing this for a long fucking time. He was the monitor guy for Lamb of God, and then passed that on to my other friend and moved up to Amon Amarth. And Southern boy, good old fucking coon-ass motherfucker. And I will miss him, and I will remember the bourbons and blunts, man. Lots of bourbons and blunts. So.
Yeah, that's too bad, man. I'm sorry to hear about that. I did not know him, but never like to lose one of our own.
Nope.
I'm sure there's been plenty of birthdays that have happened over the last few weeks. Nothing there. I know one that happened. Josh Lanier. Happy birthday to him.
Hey, happy birthday, Josh! Backflips.
Right.
Backflips everywhere.
Oh, and also you're going to go see them play tonight, right? You're going to go check them out?
Actually, Tim is busy tonight, so you know, in lieu of that very special British strain of COVID, I have decided to not go if I don't have to. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah. Well, all of you that have gone or did go,
or
I hope it
will
was
be
fun.
going. Yeah.
Or will be gone. Yeah,
I
hope
mean,
it was a good time.
it's still only 4:40. I mean, Matt could text me anytime, going, "Come on, let's go anyways." But when he replied to me when I asked him if we were still going, he said, "No, Tim's busy." So
Yeah. All right.
I was a little bit relieved, but I mean,
Yeah.
I do want to get out and see some shit in my lifetime, but
Right. Right. Yeah. That I was thinking about that earlier today. Like, it's like, on one hand, you think about, is it going to be some kind of super spreader kind of thing. On the other hand, it's like, fuck, a lot of my friends are going to be there. I want to go see my fucking friends, man. And it's we're still there. We're still in that time. But you know,
right?
to hopefully all goes well at that show. Hopefully nobody ends up getting sick. Um, and of
Yeah.
course, go. It's
My sister's whole household has a COVID right now, and
really
it's just
that's unfortunate. Hopefully they're doing all right, or they'll be okay, I should
yeah.
say. Um,
So far,
yeah,
so
make sure
good.
you make sure you stick around to the end of the episode. I got a video from Jeremiah, um, so we'll play that at the end. Make sure you stick around for that. If you're watching us on Facebook, make sure you follow us, please. Like, comment. Same on YouTube. Like, comment, share. Uh, Drop us a line if you want to be on for anything. If you're in a band and you're going to release something, or you just want to get out and try and connect with some people, hit us up. StageDoorChronicles@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Facebook.
You don't have to. You
Uh,
don't have to be a band either. You could
that's
be
right.
anything. Artists, comedians,
Mm-hmm.
crafts people. We want to talk to you. Venue owners, bar owners. Come on, man.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about what's going on. Let's let
Right.
people know.
Yeah, our platform's always open to anybody. Anybody wants to come on, so just let us know. Drop us a line. Or who knows, you might be hearing from us before you know it too.
Yeah.
So with that, let's check out some Jeremiah Walters,
Episode
and you can
15 of Stage
check
Door Chronicles.
check it out. Hello, everybody. Um, this is what, episode 14.
Is it 14?
14.
Sure it's not 15?
I'm pretty sure it's not 15. It's
All right,
14.
whatever, bro.
'Cause 14 comes after 13. Last I checked. Um, we are here with an old friend of mine, Jeremiah Walters. Everybody say hello. How you doing, Jeremiah?
Jeremiah,
How you been?
tell everybody how you guys know each other first.
Good, man. We were in a band together. I think I knew you before we were in the band together. But when we decided one bass player was not heavy enough, we loaded up with two bass players in intake. And this was, man, that was over 20 years ago, I think.
Holy crap.
I was trying to remember if you were in the lineup when we opened for first
Oh, yeah.
Suicidal.
Yep, I was there.
Were you in the band when we? Yeah. So that was freaking. As far like that was, man, talk about a rock star moment. For Suicidal Tendencies at a Colorado Music Hall, now Stargazers. But yeah, man, that was way back. But it's been, yeah, I've seen you perform a few times, but I don't know if we've talked in
No, I don't think so.
fucking decades.
Yeah, it's
man.
been.
Freaking decades. We can cuss, right? A few of the clips I saw.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
fuck
yeah.
yeah.
Say whatever you want, man.
Exercise your first memory, right?
Yeah, so that must have been back in. Must have been in 2000, 99 or 2000. Because I think I joined in 2000 when I joined at Intake. That's
Yeah.
and it's funny. One of the first memories I have of us hanging out, Jeremiah, is I used to live with this cat, Matt Summerall, and the whole Intake band came over. This is like, I mean, we had been jamming for a little bit at this point, but they all come over to the house, and I remember I was sitting next to Jeremiah, and in our house we had a Confederate flag hanging up, and like my Mississippi flag was hanging up, and all this. Now, to be fair, I'm not going to get into all that stuff and how I was raised and all that and what I feel now. Blah blah blah. Anyway, I remember seeing the look on Jeremiah's face, and he was sitting right next to me, and I look over and I was like, "Hey man, just because that's up, do you think that we're racist?" He looks me right in the eye and he goes, "Yeah." Oh fuck! I was laughing. I was like, "Well, we're certainly not." And things have changed a lot since then. But
I'm trapped in this house with these rednecks.
shit, I never forget it, man. He was sitting there with like the shock. I didn't think he'd answer like that.
I forgot about that, man.
Oh shit! I think about that every now and again, man. Especially with the things that have gone on, over this past year. I think about it and I'm like, fuck, man.
Right.
I was like, that's just too funny, man. Because to me, I didn't look at it that way at all. But yeah, great. Just the look on your face, you looked me square in the eye, and you're just like, yeah, I do think that. What a great answer. And that was, I believe, that was the same night that
I'm actually pretty proud of whatever.
Right.
I'm pretty proud of 20 whatever year old Jeremiah for having the balls to say that to a stranger.
Oh.
I don't know if I'd say that now. I'd be like, it's cool, man.
But I think that's the night that I shaved my head, so I even went bald that night. So it was like the whole triple whammy on Jeremiah. Fucking great, he's becoming a skinhead. Fucking, all this shit's hanging up. Oh shit!
What am I getting into here?
So what?
That's fine. I forgot all about that.
How did your music interest start, Jeremiah? Where did it all begin? I'm sure it was before intake. So why don't you give us a little history about yourself?
Yeah, so sort of first like performing music anyway. I mean, I think we all grow up listening to music one form or another probably. But I guess I was in fifth or sixth grade, I started playing trombone in the school band. So I wanted to be a drummer, but I was thinking like full kit. And the teacher was like, "You're just going to be like banging a 4/4 beat on a drum. You're going to be bored out of your mind. Here, have a trombone." They needed we were a small school out in Peyton. So small school, so they needed somebody to hold down the low end. So I played trombone up through like junior year high school. So
I came up that same. I came up that
still
same
to
way.
this day, kind of my own only sort of formal training.
Yeah.
Brian, that's interesting. Brian, when you were in middle school, junior high, and high school, were you in a band?
Me? I was in bands in high school. I didn't know that about either one of you guys with trombone, but I also, when I lived in Mississippi as like a fourth grader, the first instrument I ever picked up and started to learn was a trombone. I had no idea that you guys were the same. I didn't play for very long.
I started off in woodwinds actually. Well, they tried to start me off on a baritone because every band needs fucking low brass, right? Yep. So, and it's the easiest shit, man.
Yep,
if you could do that. But I worked my way up to woodwinds, and then by the time I graduated high school, I was first snare, which is really weird.
Yeah. So what about after that, Jeremiah? Where did you go from there?
Yeah, so graduated high school, and I just had a feel. I can't remember where it started, but I kind of just had this feeling that I wanted to be a singer, and I couldn't sing for shit. In fact, I remember, like, I'd go early, like as a kid, go to like church, and part of it might have just been I wasn't inspired anyway. But like my brother used to make fun of me because everybody's singing and I was just like, like I just never thought I could sing good. But anyway, it was something that I wanted to do. So I actually started. I kind of learned doing it. I sang a little bit on my own, but actually just doing karaoke, which is kind of a weird avenue maybe. But it's like a muscle that you got to train,
yeah,
right?
Exactly
so
right.
I learned. I really love. Yep. So I loved the Doors at the time, and found that I kind of sing like Jim Morrison. So sang a lot of Doors karaoke. I'm sure the Jack and Cokes and whatever the liquid Courage was probably helping me get up there, and I was more kind of shouting probably than singing for a while. And then I went to high school with a buddy of mine, Cody Isaacs, and he was had a band. I think they were already jamming and just didn't have a singer. with Kenny Masters and Craig Riggle. It was before Brian was in it, but I think Brian was like a mentor of Craig's on bass, if I remember correctly. But anyway, they asked me if I wanted to be in the band, so I did. So that was cool. And again, I was kind of helped that I was more of a shouter than a singer, you know. And frankly, I wasn't like I appreciated metal music, but it wasn't necessarily my strength. But it was like, hey man, I wanted to sing, and here's a chance to write some lyrics, and you know, and belt out. So I don't remember how long I ended up being in Intake, maybe year and a half, something like that. And then then
Did you guys
parted ways a little bit. And again, I think part of it just because
during that time did you guys
go ahead, man.
did you guys record during that time?
Nope, we did not.
Oh, that's a bummer.
We didn't come out with an album. Nah. I
There's
think
no
we banged out
recordings
some
of
stuff
you,
in the
Jeremiah,
basement, tried to do a little bit of recordings, but
Yeah.
But there's no recordings of you as the singer.
nah,
Oh, that's a bummer, bro.
not that I know of. Yeah, there might be some little demo where there was. I vaguely remember us doing some recording in the basement. I'm sure it was just on a 4-track or something. And I maybe did some rough vocals over that, but nothing serious. And then Josh Lanier, they wised up and realized, because honestly, I mean, I'm completely honest, and I didn't want to admit it at the time. Frankly, I was a little miffed. I was like, man, like I want a singer, and I kind of felt a little butthurt, you know. But I just honestly, I wasn't much of a metal singer really, and Josh Lanier is still one of the best in town, right? So he replaced me in Intake, and they took off even more, you know. So anyway, so yeah, I was a little, and it's not something where for years I was like, oh, I'm open about it, but you know, like I was basically asked to not leave the band, but it was like, maybe you can do some like samples or play some keyboard, and I was just like, in my mind, I was like, I'm a singer, you know what I mean? But exactly,
Here's your tambourine
exactly,
and your triangle.
yeah. Which exactly. Maybe get a trombone out of a pawn shop or something and do something. You know. You get that. So again, like looking back, I completely get it, because it just wasn't my strength, you know. Yeah. 2 bass players and a trombone. So that's how that kind of went down. So, but it was fun while I was in it, man. I lived in the band house and got a lot of experience performing live. Like I said, opened for Suicidal, and being around people like Brian and Craig who knew the scene and performed. And
show, man, opening for Suicidal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And for a long time.
Yeah. It was badass.
For a long time, we the feeling was definitely mutual as far as feeling bad. It's not, we certainly didn't want to push you away the way that it happened, So, I mean, it wasn't like just so you know, it wasn't something that anybody in the band felt all that fantastic about, We weren't just like, yeah, fuck that guy or anything like that, It certainly wasn't. That certainly wasn't.
Bands are like families, man.
Yeah.
They have drama.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I knew it wasn't a personal thing. It was honestly, it was just like an artistic decision or whatever you want to call it. So, I knew it wasn't because you thought I was an asshole. It's because I thought you were racist. That's what it was.
This motherfucker's onto us, man. No, so, and just so you know, there is, I'm not sure if I still have it. I know either Kenny or Cody, we do have video of you still, from back in the old Intake days. We still have some, I used to have quite a bit, actually. But I think
I'll have to get some of that for this episode.
Yeah, I don't know where, I went looking for mine when we did our Intake episode, and, I don't know where it is now. So I think I must have lost it in the move when it moved. But excuse me. So, when you,
well, if you ever come across it, it'd be cool to see. Maybe it's best the public doesn't see it, because I don't know how good
if it's out there, we're playing.
I was. I remember I always remember like about 1 or 2 songs in, I thought it was cool to like pull my shirt off, which I could pull off more at like 21 than now. And for some reason too, I want to be barefoot. I think hearing Henry Rollins was like, man, I always got to go barefoot. I can feel the floor vibrate, and I just thought that's cool. But like I was playing in the Gardens, and you weren't supposed to be barefoot, so like the bouncer dude kept coming over until he put my shoes on. And like 1 or 2 songs later, I'd take my shoes off, and yeah, that was the whole thing.
Man.
Oh, that's funny. So
Everybody sat on that fucking couch in that little dressing room, bro.
right. Oh God. So after intake, did you do anything directly after that, or did you? What happened after that point?
Yeah, I can't remember. It was not too long after. I don't remember how long after, but I hooked up with this other dude, Bo McCrae, who badass guitarist, bassist, had a studio in his basement, and we had 3 or 4 different incarnations of bands. There was Groove Medicine, Buster's Tangent, Buster's Revival. It just kind of depended on who we were playing with. And that was a little more, like I talked about, I wasn't necessarily a metalhead, even though I appreciate the art form, you know. And this is more sort of like bluesy, funk kind of psychedelic rock stuff that was a little more matched my...
Mushroom intake?
I don't know, matched me, really, you know. So, what's that?
Your mushroom intake?
Mushroom intake? Yeah. Yeah. You said intake, and I was connecting it to the band. So, in fact, we actually, one of our first gigs, this is so weird, one of the first gigs with that lineup was, and this is at the Gardens, and Intake had canceled the new lineup with Josh, had canceled some show at the Gardens, and we filled in like last minute for that. It was one of our first shows, and Intake was still up on the little marquee or whatever. So it was kind of weird, like filling in for my old band, but in a way, it kind of felt good. Like, okay, I guess I've moved on. So anyway, yeah, I did that for a couple of years. But then it was weird. So then there was a kind of a gap because, like, I was always just the vocalist, right? And even in that group, I'd like play bass, some root notes on, like we did Where Did You Sleep Last Night, the Lead Belly song that Nirvana covered on their Unplugged album or whatever. I could like bang out some root notes if it was right along with what I was singing, but wasn't really an instrumentalist or anything. So I was dependent on having other people around. So I went years and years without really singing. I did karaoke or whatever, but not really writing lyrics or performing with anybody. And then it was, I got 8-9 years ago. I work at the library, and a coworker of mine had a baritone, and I should say I was fiddling around with guitar a little bit, like an ex-girlfriend at the time had. And so I was starting to kind of get into writing some songs, and this dude had a baritone ukulele, which is like bigger than the tiny little like concert Don Ho ukuleles you normally see. Baritone, it's tuned like a guitar. It's DGBE. Yeah, exactly. So a little deeper tone. But he was like, here, why don't you just try this out, borrow it, see what you think. And I just I took right to it. And I was like, I don't really need other people to, I can just start writing my own songs on this. So started doing that. And then another coworker of mine had a concertina, a little squeeze box that he had in the closet, my buddy Travis Duncan. And he was also a singer-songwriter. In fact, he was in he was in Buster's Revival or one of those. And he's also a vocalist, and we're able to kind of do some harmonies and this little kind of folk thing. So did that for, I don't know, a few years or whatever. And so that was kind of my rebirth or whatever.
Yeah,
and
any recordings
again, like, I don't have to depend on a whole Yeah, there's an album out on SoundCloud, and I'm trying to think what else. Reverb Nation. It's called... I'm totally blanking out because I had the old band names in my head. The Rogue Spirits is the name of that. And I can get you a hold of that too, or send you some links after this. But
sweet.
Yeah, we'll put it on the,
so yeah, that's cool. He and I, Travis and I, still will. Cool. so we'll still get together and jam. He's in a duo called Spur right now. So we still do stuff, but mainly actually around theater projects. 'Cause that was another thing I got into was doing music for theater productions, including playing it live. So like we did Elephant Man, and so like it's really cool like to be able to just be right there playing the music as he's dying, or you can really make it emotional. So I'm also like in the theater scene or whatever. But I'm rambling. I could keep going on and on. That's what I get for
Brian
having
and I do a
some
lot of
caffeine
Broadway.
at whatever hour this is.
Yeah, we're in the business of production. We're stagehands. Have been for I have been for the past 15 plus years. Christian's been even longer than that. So, we definitely have our experiences in theater, not in the same kind of way. When I was in high school, I got to play in some pits and stuff like that. That was a lot of fun. But
But
what?
there's nothing like a show that has a live band accompanying it.
Right. It's just amazing.
Theaters. I hate to admit it, but I'm kind of a theater guy.
I am too. I'm right there with you, man. I much prefer.
It's not very
That's
rock and
awesome,
roll of
man.
me.
So what theaters? Do you still do theater work? I mean, what theaters do you get to do anything in or?
Yeah, so right now I'm actually a company member at Springs Ensemble Theater,
Oh,
or
nice.
SET is what it goes by, which they do some really cool stuff. It's a little, I don't know, it depends on the stage setup. It's a little black box theater where
Hmm.
crowds are like 30, 40 people, of course, pre-pandemic. And because it's a little smaller, we can put on a little more cutting edge stuff and whatnot and put on original work by local playwrights and things like that. But then I've done stuff like Theater Works, which is outside of the Fine Arts Center, probably the biggest in town. It's at the UCCS campus now. So I've done stuff with them. Like Ludlow 1914 was the first thing I did with them because it was the 100th anniversary of the
Wow.
Ludlow Massacre, which in Colorado here, where some miners went on strike and the governor sent in the National Guard and a bunch of people died, including women and children. And so we did like a play, more as I called a devised performance, where we were kind of writing it as we were rehearsing and whatnot. And it was kind of cool, like experimental, like lights and moving set pieces. And I played typewriter in this one. There's a scene called Meet the Press. It was about the influence that basically the rich mine owners had on the newspaper headlines to influence public opinion. So I was doing the rhythm track on like on a typewriter. So I was saying I'm the Jimi Hendrix of typewriters. I don't know how much
What
competition I actually have for that.
what year did this happen?
The the theater production
The
was in
actual event.
2014 because it was the 1914 because it was we did it for the 100th
1914.
anniversary of that. But yeah, the Ludlow Massacre 1914. So there's even a little memorial there off of way south on I-25. There's a little memorial for the miners and the family that had died. So, and it was one of the last things for like the
Pretty awesome, man.
labor movement kind of helped turn the tide of public opinion when it's like, oh shit, like women and kids are dying just because people want a living wage and whatever else. So a lot of this stuff we kind of take advantage of nowadays. I mean, you could argue minimum wage should be higher than it is, but we have a minimum wage, right? If you work a full-time job, you get benefits. There's, things like that we just kind of days off, weekends, like we kind of
Right.
take that stuff for granted. But I mean, people died for us to get those rights. So it's important to remember that and to fight for it because there's people that you make more money if you don't have to provide that to your workers, right? So
Right.
anyway, and I'm not getting like a big pro-union speech here or anything like that, but just basic sort of living wage and whatnot. I think an important cause. So anyway, so that was cool to be able to do that through theater, and like you guys know, because you've seen theater, but if you can give sort of a message as well, just like you're performing a song with a political message, or it doesn't have to be political, but whatever it is.
Right.
But yeah,
We're
theater's pretty cool.
stagehands in a
Millibor
D
theater, I
market,
do a lot
man.
of
We
stuff
know
with.
all about a prevailing wage.
Yeah.
Being stagehands in a deep market,
Yeah,
we know
yeah.
all about it. Scabs, even.
Right, right.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
All right.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
what's your creative process when you go about, whether it be your writing or I've seen you've done some cover songs and stuff. I've seen some of that stuff you've done. Um, but when you're writing your own stuff, what's the process or do you have a process, or is it just when the time strikes?
It's a mix. It's a mixed bag, really. Sometimes I'll just be sitting there with whatever instrument it is, usually baritone ukulele, but I've slowly added, you know, to the repertoire. So sometimes it's just kind of like banging out some chords and then humming over the top of it, maybe recording just some gibberish lyrics, and then going back and writing something to it. As far as the construction of the actual music of it, sometimes there's
do,
something that just inspires
does
me
your
specifically, and I'll go into it. Yeah, go ahead, Christian.
do your gibberish lyrics? Do you find that when you write the actual lyrics, that you follow your vocal pattern or your melody line, or do you just totally come back in and pile drive that shit?
Yeah, it again. Sometimes it depends on if it works or not, right? So if it sounds good, then and sometimes there will even be little actual word. I'm thinking I'm doing gibberish, but it'll be actual words or it'll sound like a word. But a lot of times, at least the vowel sounds or whatever, because that is just kind of what sounds right. So if I'm doing an there, then I'll write maybe I'll try out at least lyrics with an sound.
Words that sound, yeah, I
So
got you. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, right.
It's
But
awesome.
usually, kind of like the sort of the rhythm and the general melody of it, though, kind of match, and then try to match the words to the sounds that work. But then there's also times like there's a song wrote called "Don't Fight Nature," which was I wrote it during the first thunderstorm after the Waldo Canyon fire,
Oh
which had
wow.
just devastated everything. Just massive fire. Just I mean, we all seen the fire come over the mountain, like homes lost at the time until the Black Forest fire the next year. It was the most destructive fire in the state's history, and so we'd already been through this traumatic event, and then there's this
2 years in a
thunderstorm that
fucking
hits, and there's all
row.
these flash flood alerts coming on. Yeah. So all of a sudden there's these flash flood warnings and all that. While this thunderstorm's going on, I'm like, man, nature is like brutal, right? Like it can burn all these houses down, and then it can rain, and there's like mudslides, and so
Mudslides,
like
yeah, man,
literally
all those.
while that thunderstorm was raging, I wrote a song called "Don't Fight Nature." It was basically about the power of nature, and essentially, we think as humans we're sort of, you know,
In
the
control
shit,
of some
but we're
shit.
not. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, but we're not. We're
Yeah,
not.
not
We're
at all.
nature could take us.
Not at all.
Whether it's fire
If
or mudslide or earthquake or volcano or tornado, like there's just so many ways that nature is
if the
so much more
bugs
powerful than us.
decided to, they
So
could
so
eat us all right now.
Yeah.
so there's moments like that where sometimes there's a moment of inspiration where it's just like, oh, I need to write something about that, and I don't remember exactly how the chords or the melody came, but I at least had a concept, because that's usually the hardest thing for me, is to figure out what the hell am I gonna write about. I mean, the music, strangely, just that kind of comes a lot easier. It's figuring out, well, what message do I want to tell, But as I get older, I have more confidence in my worldview. I have better understanding of what's going on, so it's a little easier to pull from stuff, and then also just pulling from everyday life or history, like that's content right there from the day's headlines, like this past summer stuff that was going on. So I wrote a song about over the summer about unmarked cop cars pulling people into these unmarked vans in Portland or whatever. Like that was a song, right? So there,
Right.
there's inspiration every day, I guess, if you're looking for it.
Well, to me, it's all about, the old. It's sure it comes with age, but it's all about wisdom and knowing where especially being an artist, if you just and you're trying to get a particular message across, with the age comes the wisdom. With the wisdom comes the knowledge of knowing what it is around you, that where the wisdom is, that you can get a message across. You know what I mean? I think a lot of that stuff, like when I was younger. Now, I'm not much of a actually I'm not a lyricist at all. Um, so I always try and put everything through my music that I write. But when I was younger, it never was much of a thought process. The music just kind of came to me and just with not that it meant nothing, but it just kind of came to me and came out of my hands. There it was. I could kind of decipher it after it came out. Whereas now I'll take a little bit more time. Maybe filter through whatever the kind of things that have been on my mind or anything like that, and get them. So what you're saying, you're saying, now that you get older, I think it's just that you're just a wiser person. You've just, over the years, you've learned enough to know, how and when to get a message across, which is a, obviously an incredible tool for an artist to have. So it's
Sure.
it's awesome. It's awesome.
Well, and just having done it a bunch of times, having written songs over the course of 20, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it's been, then it gets a little easier. Yeah. And I stopped trying to be cute or overly poetic. I've just,
Right.
as I've gotten older too, just kind of be more straightforward, just say what's on my mind, Doesn't mean I don't have
Right.
some songs that are a little abstract here or there or more fanciful, but for the most part, it's just like, here's how I'm feeling, or this is something that
Fanciness
I
is
think
an
you should
art
know about,
form in and
whatever
of
it is,
itself, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That
Right.
that that little bit, for me, it's I'm currently struggling. Um, I'm supposed to be writing new GPM material. I got 3 fucking songs that are ready for, I'm working on them, but it it's for me, it's all about the meter and the way the meter of the of the lyrics and the vocals intertwine with the song, with the music that I'm given. You know what I mean? Because I don't have a lot of input musically. So my input to the music is my meter and my lyrics and my delivery. So I mean, I just find that I'm struggling a little bit more nowadays because it feels like um I'm starting to use up use up what you know what I mean? My stack is getting lower every song I write, if that makes any sense. It's
Yeah.
weird.
Absolutely. So what do you do? How do you continue? I guess you kind of answered that in your last question, but how do you continue to evolve your craft, whether it be your singing, your writing, your playing, whatever the case is.
Um, yeah, so a couple things that in the last year in particular, or so, have been well, actually, three things that come to mind is more of a focus on recording, just through just a little snowball mic at home, but just sort of layering stuff.
Technically
So
speaking, like
used to be
the
oh, what
the technical aspect of recording, or
that, yes, and trying to make it sound good with just a snowball mic and Audacity, free,
sure,
kind of Pro Tools type thing on my
chutzpah,
laptop. And then I do have a little Tascam like 8-track thing too that does pretty good. But
digital or
yeah,
tape.
working kind of technically how to make it sound good. Just digital. Although I would love, man, that analog stuff is expensive now. I'd love to try to do some
Dude,
tape, but that
we
stuff,
did
since
that
it's all
first
retro now, it's
GPM
like way too
demo on a
expensive.
4-track Fostex, man. Those
And
were the
I'd
good
love to
old days.
try that. And there's kind of a cool warmth. There's a cool warmth to it as well. And the thing that now too, because with digital, I can have 100 different tracks, right, going on. I can just layer and layer and layer and layer and layer. Whereas with the 4-track, you can dub some stuff down. There's some little tricks you can do, but for the most part, you've got those 4 tracks, and you got to figure out a way to make it work there. And those type of limitations really can drive innovation and creative ideas, and you maybe don't go
Absolutely.
too, because sometimes I'll just go too far and it's too muddied of a sound. And so a lot of those ways, I'm
I
reminded there's
find
a, oh, it's Jack.
I think you
Yeah,
can
go
get
ahead.
that. I think you can get that same dilution out of over layering a digital tracks. I think that you can still get that same
Right.
adverse effect just because you have the ability. I don't think you should always have to use it. You know what I mean? I think it's all up.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's a matter of how you learn how to do it. You know what I mean? And I've been recording since I'm fucking 16. So, I mean, I understand the concept of ping ponging tracks when you're working with 16 on a 2 inch fucking Studer machine. You know what I mean? I've been there and done that and shit. But I think that a lot of production nowadays, um, I think a lot of it suffers from the ability to be able to stack so much shit into one fucking song.
And you got to trust your ear too, like to know when it's too much, when to pull
Yeah,
back as you're going. It could be like, all right, like whatever it is, that keyboard part sounds cool, but with it in there, then I'm losing all this other stuff, or so just sometimes I don't know. Yeah, you got to kind of sort of trust your instincts and know when to pull back and show restraint. So that's stuff that I'm still kind of learning. If you're okay, well, if I pan them, are they going to conflict with each other, or whatever it is? So the recording and then just learning different instruments. I've just little here and there. I've gotten not addicted per se, but I'm on eBay a lot looking for like weird, cool instruments that have like a unique sound and stuff from like around the world. I just had something come in today that's this instrument from Japan that's like it's like typewriter keys, but you strum it and like pressing the typewriter keys frets it for you, but it's got an open G string on it. And so like, and I just got that today, so I'm excited to like, well, let's see how that sounds with some of these other songs or whatever. So that sort of sonic experimentation, not just recording the actual recording, but the instrumentation and figuring out, well, what sounds good with what. And so it's kind of nice to have all those different sort of brushes or colors to play with, because ultimately it's about serving the song,
Right. So
So
the instrument you're talking about from Japan. You said is it a strum or is it like a wheel that you turn or
it's a strum. Yeah, I wish it was like a hurdy-gurdy. Man,
hurdy-gurdy? That's what
I
I'm
think
thinking
they're
about.
expensive. But
Those things are awesome, man. Those
yeah,
things are absolutely
hurdy-gurdies
awesome.
are awesome, man. They got these little like make your own hurdy-gurdy kits that they sell, but like all the reviews, like a couple of them, they put it together and it just is like. But yeah, this is it's terrible. It's terrible. But yeah, this is in fact I got it. Let me even this. I know. I guess you guys can edit, right? So
Yeah, go ahead.
I got it right here. I'll just show you guys. This is an example. So it's like
oh wow.
so. This is where you strum, and it's got is it 5 strings? Yeah, 5 strings, all tuned to G. There's like a low this G drone string, and then these others. But then there's all these typewriter keys, and then depending on which one you hit, and
Press.
there's the just like the white and black keys on a piano. And it's I don't have a pick here, but like I don't know. It sounds better with a pick.
Nice.
But like finding
Yeah.
cool stuff like that, you know what I mean? To like that, and there's that sort of novelty, like visually, it's kind of cool too. And I'm not like naive to think that that wasn't part of it. Like, oh, like I'm looking forward to playing live again because I've got all these like cool, weird. I got a balalaka and things like that, right? That like visually look cool. But the main thing, like, if it didn't sound good, who cares? You know what I mean? It's
Right.
just an ornament for the wall or whatever. So that's been a thing lately is figuring out, yeah, different cool things like that to sort of add to the repertoire. And now I got a looping pedal. That's the other thing I haven't done. I've been able to perform live since I got the looping pedal. So I'm looking forward to that since I've got all these different instruments. I'm just one person. I've got musicians and I've got projects where I play with other people, but I think it'll be kind of cool to like layer this stuff live and bust out like, yeah, that. Like I'm super excited to, you know, pull that thing out and just add a whatever and have that looping and then add a balalaika over the top of it or whatever else, you know. So
Right.
so that's
Right.
yeah, that's keeping it interesting for me in the past year.
So where aside from in theater settings and like the recordings that I see you do, obviously, you know, you haven't been able to get out to do any live playing, or have you done any live playing since the pandemic started, or?
Not necessarily in person, no. I did like a couple of Facebook Live things, but that doesn't count. But with an actual audience, not really. I did a thing through
it
the
counts,
library
absolutely.
district.
It counts.
The library district did this thing called Artists of the Night.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It does count doing live on Facebook. So I did this thing through the library. The library owns Knights of Columbus Hall, an old historic building downtown by the Penrose Library, and they've converted it. It used to just be an office space for us, but they've converted it to be like a arts space and performance venue. And in fact, they were just getting ready to do their grand opening weekend back in March when the pandemic hit. So I was actually going to play live with Ben Pratt. I don't know if you know him, but he's amazing. He's a guitar ninja, and so we're in a project together called Foolishly, and that was going to be our sort of debut under that. We played together, but it was going to be our debut under that name. Anyway, so it closed, but the manager there, Dustin Booth, did this virtual programming there called Artists of the Night, KNIGHT, like Knights of Columbus, and so I got to perform like a live concert there that went out on YouTube and did an interview to pair up with that. So yes, but yeah, looking forward to getting in front of some audiences at whatever venues. Sadly, I mean, I get worried the longer this goes on. How many venues
Right.
are going to be able to
You're
sustain? But because of the nature of my folk music, I just give me a brewery or a coffee shop or what, you know what I mean? So
Coffee shop.
I can just
Yeah.
busk on a street corner, coffee shop, whatever. So, yeah, looking forward to it. But for lots of reasons, I'm looking forward to us all being able to go out and start to, have some semblance of a normal life and see each other in person again and to see other people. I mean, yeah, I miss playing for people, but I enjoy that interaction with the crowd, but I love just being just at home by myself making the music too. So it's 80% of the enjoyment, but it still is not bad. But what I miss most is going out to see other people perform, for all sorts of, that's just how live music's the best, So hopefully that's
Right.
coming soon.
It's definitely therapeutic for for anybody, really. I mean, so if you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
I mean, I'm kind of like idealistic in a way. Like I think a lot of what ails society could be cured if we just listen to each other and we're more empathetic. So it'd be something about let's just listen, or let's just love one each other, or something like that. Not that just a billboard is going to solve all of that, but I think we could all use a little more empathy. I mean, what we see with our divided society right now, all sorts of things, but even before this sort of polarization, it's always been the case where empathy is important. People that are not like you, just talking and understanding it. And I need to do that myself too. We all have our own biases, and I'm the same way. I'll walk into a party and somebody has a Confederate flag up, and I just assume they're a racist, for example.
Fucking redneck.
Hey, well,
So-
to be fair, Jeremiah, I would feel the same way if I walked into a party these days. Let me tell you a little story to go on. When I left Colorado, we moved down to Florida. Didn't work out in Florida, so we decided to move to where I grew up at in Mississippi, right? And like I said, when we had that flag hanging up in our house, we also had a Mississippi flag. I remember driving into Mississippi to show my family the town that I grew up in, and which is where we live now. But But we drove in, and I remember seeing the flag, and it was so uncomfortable and so like, and this is before the craziness of the past year, but just over time, talking to different people in my life, and learning what it means to other people. I mean, I would certainly never want anybody else to feel uncomfortable because of something that I have. I wasn't raised to believe that those flags were bad. You hear a lot on the news. People say, "Well, it's our heritage." Well, that's what I learned growing up, is that it's a heritage thing. It's not a race thing. But again, with learning and being empathetic to other people and listening to what they have to say, I've learned that that's not the way people see that, and that's not the way I see it anymore. I mean, it makes me uncomfortable, and I see it everywhere where I'm at. I see it everywhere, and it drives me crazy. So, as a matter of fact, it came up on the recent ballot to change our state flag, and I was all for it, and thankfully it passed, and we got our state flag changed. So that, I don't know if you're familiar with the Mississippi state flag, but it had the Confederate battle flag in the corner of it, which I'm just like, how back in time does this place have to be to still have something like that? But people fought it tooth and nail. I mean, it's weird. It's really weird to see after all these years. So just so you know, so if I went into a party and I saw that, I'd be like, man, this is not where I want to be right now. I'm getting the fuck out of Dodge. You know what I'm saying? So, to be fair.
Yeah. But had I taken my own advice, though, and I'm sure we did talk about it, but again, part of it is me not just making that assumption because you've got that flag up that you're a racist. I guess it's easier for us to even make that assumption now because of the last year, and it's like been pretty loudly said that, hey, that means a bad thing to a lot of people, and it's a symbol of hate,
Right.
oppression, whatever. But, I could have taken my own advice then and maybe not jump to that conclusion and be like, oh, he's from Mississippi and that's part of his heritage. And just because I'm from Colorado, I'm not used to seeing that around, even though
Right.
this used to have a Confederate presence here and whatnot. But anyway, so my point with that too is that goes both ways, or both. I hate that it's sides or way, but you know what I mean? Like I know
Right,
I'm
right.
not exempt from having to do that and check my own biases and make sure I'm listening, So anyway, so yeah, something on a billboard that says listen or have empathy or what. I was like, how did we get here? Oh, that's right. I would not put a Confederate flag on the billboard. How about that?
I think to go to the point of our little story here of what I get out of it is that, essentially, you didn't just walk out. Whether you assumed what you assumed or not is, to me, irrelevant, because you didn't walk out. Which the look on your face told me that's exactly what you were thinking about doing, but you didn't, because I told you that I was like, hey, I'm not a racist, man, But at the same time, what I convey to you is that it might have taken me some time, but I too listened, and I've had talks with other friends about it, particularly in Colorado, that really kind of that opened my eyes to a different view of the whole thing. Again, this is years ago. This is long before all this happened. So that's something I think that I take from that particular situation, which is probably why I think about it so much. Is that I kind of laughed when you said it, and when you said, yeah, that's what I think, I kind of laughed because I'm like, well, you don't know who I am, but at the same time, it took me some time, but I came around, I listened, and again, you didn't just up and run out like a lot of people would, and so I think we had some semblance of empathy even back then, even if it wasn't a subject that was out in the open as much as it is today. You know what I mean? So I think it turned out to be a good thing.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so who would star in a movie about your life?
Well, I'm an actor, so depending on myself, of course, no. Yeah, that's a good. I don't know, man. Of course, there's who would I want to, and then who would I, who would actually look enough like me to, like, Yeah, that's a tough question. It's funny because I've seen y'all's lightning round, and I was like, I got to get ready for some like off the cuff questions, and of course, you can't prepare because you don't know what the hell the question's going to be. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't. There's so many good ones. There's so many good actors out there. Just pick one. I think Leonardo DiCaprio is like pretty versatile, and he could play the young me and an older me. We're both devilishly handsome. No, DiCaprio, because Scorsese's going to have to direct it, so obviously it's got to be DiCaprio.
Well, yeah, if Leo's in it.
I don't
If
think
you
De
and Leo
Niro doesn't
are
have
in
the
it,
chops anymore to pull it off. Yeah,
So are you really? Do you act now? Is that?
yeah. So I do. In fact, I did some short films. That band that I was in after Intake, there was sort of a guy, Jesse Bridges, a guy that hung out in that with that group that shot films. So I kind of did some short films then, and then did quite a few over the years. And then I got into the theater scene for the music. But as I was sitting there, I was like, I like acting, and they're just it's different, slightly different type of acting, But so I'm in the music scene or in the theater scene. I'm still kind of known as maybe the musician that can act or whatever. But yeah, I don't know how many, 10 or 12 theater productions I've acted in as well. Sometimes as the musician, right? So it's the local minstrel or whatever. But yeah, I like acting. I'm actually this coming weekend. I'm waiting on the shoot date, but this touches on what I was actually thinking of this when you're asking who would play me, because I'm like, well, maybe I don't see myself like everybody else does because I'm portraying Donald Trump in a movie that's being a short film that's being this weekend. I'm like, do I look? I mean, I know I put on a little weight. Like, I guess I got the blonde hair. I had a big. That's part of the reason I shaved my beard that I normally have. But I was like, well, if I look like Trump, maybe DiCaprio's not the not the best
guy.
person to portray me. Yeah.
So you'll have to
But hey,
keep
he's
me
out
up,
of a job. Maybe Trump could play me in a movie.
you'll have to keep me updated on that when this thing comes out. I'd love to see it, man. I can only imagine what. I mean, is there a concept behind it, or is it something you're not talking about yet, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure if what I'm at liberty to say. To be honest,
I
with
got you. That's fine. That's
I've
fine.
seen the
That's
screenplay,
fine.
but I haven't talked to. It's written by this guy Warren Epstein, who he was the Gazette movie critic for a long time, and is also an actor and a
yes,
playwright and all that. So he's writing it. And he's got a role in it that's kind of bridging. I think I could probably say there's myself, and then playing Trump, and then there's another guy that's playing General Grant. And so
Wow.
it's like a two scene short film, and there's connective tissue that I don't want to get into too much without
Right.
fear of giving it away. But yeah. Anyway, or Lee. I said
didn't he
Grant.
do?
Shit, Lee. Slight difference.
Didn't Warren Epstein do a local music column before he did the movie column that he did?
He maybe did some. I'm trying to think. He probably did some music. He worked. He was in.
Did
In
he?
fact, I used to work at the Gazette years ago. So he was in their entertainment.
Right.
Whatever their lifestyle department or whatever. So he was their main movie reviewer, but he very likely his wife's a very talented musician, and I know he loves music. He had me on a radio show that he had years ago about music. So
Okay, so if you could turn back the clock, what advice or what would you tell a younger you, 18-year-old you? What kind of advice would you give them?
I moved somewhere. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I moved into with my now wife, my girlfriend at the time. So I came across these old notebooks and whatnot with poetry and song lyrics or whatever from when I was 18, 19. And everything was so much a bigger deal than I thought at the time. I thought it was a huge deal. Every little thing, every little, not even heartbreak. Is like a girl I dated for 2 months or whatever, and it just like, oh, this is the worst, or just like
Wrecked.
everything's
I'm
just so
fucking
big.
wrecked.
Oh, why? Oh God, oh. And so, I don't know what that exact advice would be, but like, really, it's not. You're gonna think this shit's a big deal, but it's not. It's a minor deal. You're not even remember it. Some of these I was reading, like, I was obviously super bummed about this, and I don't remember the girl or the thing that happened. Like, but at the time, it was just like the end of the world, right? So, yeah, just kind of maybe don't. I can't say don't sweat the small stuff because you don't realize it's small stuff. So,
Right.
Right.
something may seem like it's a big deal, but just give it time. Just give it time, and stuff has a way of working itself out.
So you strike me as somebody that I could be way off, but that maybe has fiddled around with a theremin. You ever mess with those?
I have only with like other people. I've never had my own, but and in fact, part of the reason I wouldn't is just because they're you can do a lot of stuff with them, but they're, I don't know, for a decent one, they're like a couple hundred bucks, which for sort of, I don't want to call them a novelty thing, but it sort of would be, which not that these aren't, but these are more than just novelty, right? These are, I feel like, more sort of functional instruments. But I've seen cool people do stuff with theremins and whatever, but no. But I did find there's an instrument called a tremoloa. I don't have one yet. I'm waiting for the right deal or one that looks like it's in good shape. But it was something that was made in the 1920s, and it was trying to kind of capitalize on the Hawaiian music craze, and the slide guitar. So it's got like, it's really weird. It's got like these 4 sets of strings that you can that are each sort of chords, so you can kind of strum 4 different chords. And then there's this like handle with a roller on it that goes on a single string, and the end of the roller has a pick. So you pick it and you can like put this roller on the string, but the roller is also weighted, so it makes the string bounce. So it's like a whoa, 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 whoa. It sounds like a theremin. But it also, you can play chords and stuff with your left hand. So maybe someday I'll have a tremolo, but it's with these antique instruments. Like I got this thing it's like a violin uke, and I got it for super $25 or something. But it's like when they're so old, you don't know what you're getting, and it was all warped, and the strings are old, and so I want to kind of make sure if I'm going to invest in one of these guys that it's going to be actually playable and not just something that sits on the bookshelf and looks pretty. Yeah, exactly. So no theremin, but maybe one day a tremoloa, which sounds sort of like a theremin.
Yeah. Yeah, I picked up a theremin a couple of years ago. I tried. I was playing in a cover band for a hot minute, and I tried. I can't remember what song it was that I can't remember for the life of me what it was that I was using it in, but it ended up becoming kind of a novelty thing. Now it does, and then it just suddenly stopped working. I imagine it's probably not very hard to fix, but I haven't even tried to fix it, or I honestly couldn't even tell you. I'm sure it's stuffed in my storage somewhere, but yeah, I don't know. I've seen people that really know how to play theremins, and it's pretty wild to see somebody actually playing like green sleeves on a fucking theremin. I mean, it's pretty bizarre to see that kind of stuff, but it's I don't know, pretty neat. But yeah, I'm of the same thought that for me it just ends up being kind of it's just a novelty thing, and it was something I like to say, hey, guess what I have. So, who are 3 people that have helped you most throughout your artistic career?
Well, I will talk about Woody Guthrie real quick. I know and I don't want to dismiss the people that have been in my life that have given me opportunities and inspired me, but I would feel like I'd leaving people out as well, because there's been a lot of them and local musicians that inspire me every day, So, but Woody Guthrie's a big influence of mine. Just he really. I'm trying to think in so many ways. It's because it's not just musically; it's more kind of the message, I guess. He spoke truth to power, really, and and did it in a plain spoken but poetic way. And that kind of touches on what I was talking about earlier. Is you just if you have a point, just tell the people what you
Make
mean.
it.
You can be creative about it. You can be very poetic in everyday language, right? But if you're just kind of like, I don't get what this guy's talking about, then it's not really going to land home. Which is kind of funny because Bob Dylan, who is another influence of mine, but he started as a Guthrie disciple. But some of his stuff, people are like, what the hell does that mean? I've heard some of his songs 100 times.
Only
And I'm
Bob
like,
knows.
I don't know what the hell he means.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Only fucking
exactly.
Bob knows.
So Guthrie a lot just because of his writing style, but also that he wanted to like have a message, or he wrote about things like including like he had a song about Ludlow, for example, and things like that. He had a whole thing about the Dust Bowl ballads, which he actually lived through a little bit of that in Oklahoma as a kid, and so I would definitely put Guthrie way up there. Yeah, there's a lot. Somebody I don't know if I just him as an individual as a whole artistically, but something that stuck with me and I thought of him earlier was Jack White, which some of his music. I mean, he's a very talented musician, and some of the stuff I could do with or do without, but he talked a lot early on about kind of what we were talking about earlier about how limitations can force you to be creative. So like with the White Stripes, it was all about the number 3. You'd only have 3 instruments playing at one time, so you'd play guitar and have drums and vocals, but if the vocals dropped out, then he could go add an organ part, or only 3 chords in a whole song, or so those limitations kind of forcing you to adapt, and that's really that all you need. And he talked about how like a table, 3 legs is the minimum for a table to stand. Or he was an upholsterer, so when you're tacking up the back of a couch, the upholstery on a couch, you need 3 is the minimum number of staples or whatever to hold it on there. So his kind of talk about doing a lot with a little has really stuck with me over the years. And again, I'm a fan of his work anyway, but more what he talked about there. There's just so many good ones, right? There's so many good. Robert Johnson, I'll just say, because dude was a badass. I love old blues. I just want to give a shout out to Robert Johnson. Just incredible guitarist. He's like the first, or one of the first, maybe the first to record to do like rhythm and played lead lines at the same time, to the point where like Clapton, years later, the guy they call God, he did a Robert Johnson cover album, and he just couldn't play all the parts, so he had to like have somebody else play rhythm so he could play the lead, or he had to layer himself. Like Eric Clapton, however many 80 years later or whatever, couldn't do what Robert Johnson was doing back in the 20s or whenever that was. So, and his lyrics were amazing, just an amazing poet. And there's that kind of cool mystery around him, and him dying, getting poisoned by whiskey because of a jealous lover, or so that adds to the mystique. But just the songs, those 30 tracks or whatever he laid down in just a couple of years, are just mind blowing.
That movie with Steve Vai and Ralph Macchio, man, that adds to the whole mystique.
Yeah,
too.
the whole Sell Your Soul, and yeah,
Crossroads.
Yeah, the Crossroads thing. Yeah,
yeah. Going back to your Jack White, when I first heard the White Stripes, it wasn't that I didn't like what I heard on the radio or whatever. They visually didn't appeal to me. I don't know. It just struck me as candy strippers, kids playing music or whatever, and it just didn't. For whatever reason, it was a prematurely bad judgment, and by my estimation. I've gone back. I listened to their catalog of music, and those guys they were amazing. I mean, and then the stuff that Jack White's done on his own. I mean, the guy's just an incredible musician, incredible. I mean, I don't know. I'm a huge fan of his, and it was much later in his career. Not that he's at the end of his career by any stretch, but it was well into his career, I should say, when I really learned about him, and how talented he really is, and how good all his music is. I love his music, man. I think it's just absolutely incredible.
sorry, I just got to add what he's done with Third Man Records and the renaissance of vinyl
Right.
and what he's done for
Right.
that, and finding cool artists. And like, he did an amazing album he produced for Loretta Lynn, and
Hmm.
like, so just his work as a businessman and a producer on top of being a musician is, he's dude's a badass, you know.
His vinyl company, doesn't he have the ability, I think, to he can record, get something mastered, and have it pressed on a vinyl at the like the same day. Like he just
One facility.
yeah, it's I mean, yeah, the shit
Yeah.
that he's doing is just it's really cool, man. Really cool. At the moment, do you have a favorite song that you like to perform, whether it's cover, original, anything like that? Is there any that you have that you particularly are loving at the moment?
One song in particular.
Yeah, that you just
Um, yeah.
that you
So
really
late.
enjoy performing right now.
Right. Right. Probably my favorite to do live, and it just stays. It just stays with me, and I enjoyed it, even though I wrote it a few years ago. But there's a song called "Burnin' World." Just because it's kind of like nice galloping beat, it holds up well with just my uke, and I get a little harmonica part in it. It sounds nice fleshed out too when it's layered. But there's a song "Burnin' World" that's a lot of fun to belt out, and and it kind of goes in with what we were talking about divisiveness in the nation and all that kind of stuff. It talks about how that's kind of keeping us from solving this world that's burning. Not just literally, it's a little wink at climate change maybe, but it's mainly about the sort of the temperature of everything right now, or and it has been. It's more so than a few years ago when I wrote it, but "Burning World" I'd put up there. But I tend to not dwell, like you mentioned covers, but I tend to just kind of keep plowing. So it's fun. And since I haven't been out performing live, I'm just learning new songs. So I've actually I ramble a little bit on this, but I discovered there's this book. I'm gonna forget the name of it now. The Child's Ballads are the what they kind of go by. And there's this book that this guy Francis James Child published in the late 1800s of like 300 and some old ballads. Some go back to like the 1200s or whatever, like the oldest songs you could possibly. It's the English and Scottish popular ballads is the name of his book. Anyway, so I've been going through those one at a time, and they're just like cool, weird. Some of them really creepy. Some of them really like taboo subjects, like incest and like I mean, it's just like stuff where like I don't. I don't know. Maybe I'll sing. Luckily, there's sometimes like 7 versions of it, so I'm like, maybe I won't sing the one where the guy killed his sister that was pregnant with his child. Like, wow, they were singing about some heavy shit in the 1700s, or maybe they're just more open about it, or I don't know. But so because of, like, yeah, I'm just always just kind of moving forward. So usually it's my favorites, whatever song I'm working on that night, you know. So
Right.
that was
Right.
a big non-answer, I guess.
Is there an artist out there, local or anybody out there, dead, alive, local, national, doesn't matter. Is there anybody that you would have or would like to collaborate with?
You know, I'm like friends with some people that I want to collaborate with. I've even jammed with a couple of them, but there's some local folks that, in fact, I'm getting ready to work on an album now. So maybe by the time I'm going to reach out to a couple of them and see if they're interested in it. But there's I don't know if you know Roma Ransom. So there's a duet, Grace and Gordon, and they're like sort of this like bohemian folk, like, but he does psychedelic guitar. He can play like anything under the sun, and she's an amazing violinist. So they're really good. There's a guy Curtis Boucher, great songwriter, but he plays banjo, and he's got this amazing like high voice that just in my head would harmonize so well with mine. So I'd love to hear, you know, him doing stuff. And also there's Xanthi Alexis, a local singer, folk artist who actually her last name was more electronica, but she's got this incredible voice too, and a great musical mind. And then just people I'm lucky to have played with Ben Pratt and Travis Duncan and these people. So those are a few that come to mind, that actually I'm planning on reaching out and talking to about maybe layering some songs for this album I'm going to come out with. Can I do a quick plug for what I'm about to work on the next couple months?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So my wife Darla Slee is this amazing visual artist, just amazing. She can paint and do all sorts of stuff, but illustrating is kind of her main medium. And so her next show, she's got a show at Croiser Gallery that's going to be about Norse mythology. And so I'm going to do an album as a sort of companion piece to that around the theme of Norse mythology, that I'm really excited about. So, and that's part of the reason it was useful going through these old songs and old ballads, is I kind of want to have it maybe written sort of in that old storytelling style and whatnot. And there's so many cool old stories there to work with. So I'm that's my goal. Next couple months, I'm gonna be recording that and maybe trying to rope some friends into it. Now, when I first had the idea, also my thought was my friends could also help me perform it live at the, but that might not happen. But May is when that solo show is for my wife, so that's when I'm gonna release that record. So anyway, so that's exciting. So I might be able to make that a reality. I just need to actually ask the people. I felt them out before already, by the way, but so I'm not going to be totally like, hey, you need to do this. But
That's great. That's great. How do you feel, especially now? I'm sure it's probably been more so now than ever before, but how has the internet affected what you do with music?
well, so to go to those child ballads, for example, is that's just great. It's just a resource for me to go find any old song I want, the lyrics from any old book. I found the oldest Norse, secular Norse hymn, actually, that we went back. I don't remember, it was from the 1100s or something. And you can find what the notes are and what the words are and find the words translated. So as far as like research on the folk music side of it, it's amazingly simple. Instead of like the child ballads are like a 6 volume set that would be a couple $100, and I'd have to flip through. So but then of course distributing the music is so easy. You can just put it out there and on multiple platforms, like within 5 minutes of finishing the recording. It could be on Facebook and YouTube and SoundCloud and Reverb Nation and Instagram, and people can all around the world. I did an old folk song about it's called "The Unfortunate Rake," which is about a guy that catches syphilis and it dies. It's sort of the same. There's a whole series of these songs, and St. James Infirmary is actually sort of one of those in the family of these songs. But I had a video. I found this cool old footage of this London infirmary, and so that was my sort of video to accompany the audio. And it's gotten tons of views, which is super cool. Alone, like I haven't checked, but a few thousand views or whatever. Not Jack White numbers, but this guy that like grew up. His hometown is where that infirmary is, and he had just been like searching for something about his hometown and came across this video and was like, oh, I know that building when I was a kid, and can you tell me more about the story behind this song? And like, so just that you can connect with people around the world, and like you look at YouTube stats and like, wow, like people in Indonesia are listening to my music or whatever it is just kind of like
Wow.
mind blowing. So the accessibility is not, and then of course being able to listen to anybody else's music like that is
Right.
good. There's a drawback to that because it's a short attention span. I've got vinyl records, and that's very nice because you gotta like pick it and you put it down and you drop the needle, and for the next 20 minutes or whatever, you've made that decision. Whereas if you're online on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you are, just man, you can bounce around quick. If it doesn't grab you within 15 seconds, you just move on to the next one. So I'm sure there's been lots of amazing stuff I've missed out on just because I can,
Right.
which is it's kind of sad. But so there's a lot of pros and cons to the interwebs.
So what would you pick as your last meal?
I think I have to go with my go-to breakfast when I'm at a diner. It's chicken fried steak, scrambled eggs, cheese on the eggs, hash brown sourdough toast topped in country gravy. That's my
Oh,
go-to.
yeah.
That sounds delicious.
I want some of that right fucking now.
What do you think would be a fitting epitaph for your gravestone?
Fitting. See, that's like there's two ways to go with that. Like what kind of like with the actor that would play me, like what I wish it was or what it actually would be, you know. Yeah, like I'd hope to be known as somebody that cared, like he cared, or something like like I would hope that I'd be known as a compassionate person or whatever. Even beyond, like I like being creative and all that, and that's great. But wanting to be known as a good caring person. But I need to live up to if that's what I want. Hopefully I've got another 40, 50 years to make that a reality. Maybe not accuse people of being a racist
It's ambitious.
on a whim, for example, would help with all that. I'll stop circling back around to that. Yeah, something about that hopefully that I cared. Not so much I'd like to make a difference, but not like, oh, he changed the world, but just that I was a caring or compassionate person would be nice. We'll see if I get there.
All right. I'm sure you'll do just fine. And with that, my friend, you have reached the lightning round. The lightning round is brought to you by our viewers around the globe. Sending in their questions. What we're going to do is we're going to ask you 5 rapid-fire questions. Christian and I will each ask you back and forth questions. There'll be 5 of them. Just answer them as quick as you can. Kind of similar to like a Rorschach test. 25 horses, no stopwatch, 3 tracks. Pick the fastest 3 horses in the least amount of races.
You're gonna make me do some math. All right, least amount of races. Well, you just let them all fucking go. Just let them go. First 3, just one race. There
you go.
If they're good, if they get out of the gate quick, they won't get stuck in it. Just one race, let them have it out. I know that goes against some National Horse Racing Federation regulations, but you know what? Fuck the National Horse Racing Association. I've had it with them.
I've had it up to here. Okay. How would you move Mount Fuji?
Trying to think of some clever answer, but really you just got to do it one stone at a time. No shortcuts, fellas. No shortcuts.
There you go.
Would Mahatma Gandhi have made a good software engineer? So fucking racist. That is a racist ass question.
I would say, well, no, but he wouldn't take many lunch breaks, so you'd be very productive in that way. Or he could go, if he's on deadline, he could go, we know he could go a long time without eating, so that would help. He seems like a very good, smart, logical person, so yes, we'll take the ethnicity part out of the equation and just say, yeah, I think his intelligence and his proven endurance would make him one of the, if not world's top programmers, he would still be a competent programmer.
Perfect. And it's only racist because Christian made it that way. Okay. A penguin walks through the door right now wearing a sombrero. What does he say and why is he here?
Now I'm going to have a hard time not being racist.
Good enough. That's a great answer.
He's wearing maybe that's what he says. Just try not being racist right now, is what the penguin would say to me.
And your final question, who would you let punch you directly in the face?
Mahatma Gandhi. I said Gandhi. Gandhi.
Sweet. All right, perfect.
He'd be like so busy programming with one hand, he wouldn't really put much into it.
Not that he had much to put into it at the end.
can't.
Right. Oh my God. That's funny. So, where can people find you at, Jeremiah? Where can we send them to come check you out?
Yeah. So the kind of like 4 platforms I push most of my stuff to are Facebook, and on all these Jeremiah Walter music will get you there. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Reverb Nation. I tend to put most of my work out there as I'm doing it.
Sweet.
I have a pro tip for you, Jeremiah.
Yes, sir.
Linktree.
Linktree. I knew I had my pen for a reason.
One
Linktree.
web address for everything you've got.
Yeah, I think it's pretty brilliant. And listen, whatever links that you have, just email them to me, and I'll make sure we put them in the description of the show here, so people can go right from here, go check it out. Thank you so much for coming and doing this. We really appreciate your time, Jeremiah. It's been awesome talking to you again. Oh yeah, that's right.
You guys.
Jeremiah he just did the Riff Rag in the latest episode or latest issue of Riff Rag. So make sure you pick that up. He's got a cool little write up in there.
That's a Riff Rag covering local music in Colorado and beyond. Thank you
How about
very
you,
much, man. It was nice to talk to you, brother.
Yeah. Nice to talk to you. Good catching up.
It's been fun, buddy.
Thank you.
Take it easy.
Thank you.
So there you go. That was Jeremiah Walters. He's always fun to talk to. Give me a bit of a hard time with this whole Confederate flag thing, but you reap what you sow.
So yeah, let's check out a video of one of his songs called Autumn Falls Fast. This is Jeremiah Walter.
Check it out. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Thanks for joining us.
Guessing Confederate flag for Brian, and
Come on, man.
Christian, I'm guessing Gen
killing me,
X
Smalls.
Gen X Joe for Christian. That joke didn't land at all. I get it. It's the lag.